In the mood for swords, sorcerers, and stories containing fantastical elements that could never exist in the real world? We've scoured the pages of Rotten Tomatoes to find the most critically beloved examples of the fantasy genre. To be fair, lots of Disney films could have made this list, but it's hard to argue with the critics here. 1991's Beauty and the Beast, a staple of Disney's early 90s pre-Pixar renaissance, is as good as animation and cinema gets. Based on both the 1740 short story and the equally great French film from 1946, this animated classic won overwhelming critical acclaim upon release, and for good reason. It's the story of Belle, a young French girl who's captured by and falls in love with a reclusive beast who only has until the last petal falls from a magical rose to fall in love himself and revert back to human form. Otherwise, he'll stay a beast forever. Meanwhile, the egomaniacal Gaston convinces Belle's neighbors that she's in terrible danger and leads them on a quest to kill the beast so he can have Belle to himself. Also, there's a living candlestick whose best friend is a clock, and a teapot with a cup for a sun, and a walking chest of drawers, and you know what? Let's just watch it again.
It has to be something very special.
Written and directed by Guillermo del Toro of The Shape of Water and Pacific Rim fame, Pan's Labyrinth is truly a masterful cinematic fable in a style not unlike Alice in Wonderland, but considerably darker and more mature. Pan tells the story of Ophelia, a young Spanish girl living during the Spanish Civil War. After traveling to meet her new rebel-hunting stepfather, she stumbles upon a stone labyrinth filled with mystical creatures. The faun guarding the entrance to this maze believes Ophelia to be the reincarnation of Princess Moana, who's prophesied to one day return to unite the underworld. The faun tasks Ophelia with various quests, such as retrieving a key from the belly of a great toad, retrieving a dagger from the child-eating pale man, and spilling the blood of an innocent to open a portal. The faun claims that success will restore her to the throne. However, things go south in the world above as her stepfather continues his ruthless campaign, and Ophelia's ability to navigate the struggles of both places is put to the test. We won't spoil the surprises, but we will emphasize just how otherworldly and magical this film feels. As evidenced by its Rotten Tomatoes score, the critics agreed and put it on countless 2006 Best of the Year lists. If you haven't seen it, do so now. We promise you won't be disappointed. All three Lord of the Rings films were fantastic, but you really can't beat The Two Towers. The action follows a rather bittersweet ending to 2001's The Fellowship of the Ring, in which Boromir died, Frodo struck out alone, Sam nearly drowned getting to him, and Merry and Pippin were captured by orcs. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli head out not to escort Frodo to Mordor, but instead to save the other two hobbits. Their journey leads them to a resurrected Gandalf, and into Rohan, which is besieged by the forces of the evil wizard Saruman, who's working for the big bad Sauron. Meanwhile, bumbling hobbits Merry and Pippin manage to convince a group of walking, talking trees to take the fight to Saruman after he slaughtered their brethren in a deforestation binge. Further east, Frodo and Sam capture the ring-obsessed Gollum and force him to guide them to Mordor, only to get caught themselves by foot soldiers from Gondor. As film highlights go, audiences are still amazed by the Battle of Helm's Deep. It doesn't quite surpass Saving Private Ryan's opening Omaha Beach sequence on the list of all-time greatest battle scenes, but it came damn close and hasn't been topped since. All forms of animation have their merits, but there's just something about stop motion that's simply spellbinding. Maybe it's the slightly off-time movement that gives it an otherworldly feel, or the knowledge that an enormous amount of effort went into crafting every moment. Whatever the case may be, it doesn't get better than The Nightmare Before Christmas. It tells the story of Pumpkin King Jack Skellington, who tires of the same spooky routine year after year and tries to sell the idea of Christmas to a town that can't imagine a holiday other than the one after which they've been named.
How about it? Think you can manage?
A 1 and a 2 and a 3 and...
The songs are great and the characters are unforgettable, but it's the wild, dreamlike union of Christmas and Halloween aesthetics that really draws you in and blows you away. You might call it the Halloweenmas spirit. You can't explain how or why it works, you just know that, like peanut butter and jelly, it does. Food metaphors aside, we should all probably rewatch The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a Halloweenmas tradition. It's been pointed out that, like the books upon which they're based, the Harry Potter movies grew up with their fans. The Sorcerer's Stone is pretty much a kiddie flick, but by the time we get to the second half of the Deathly Hallows, things have changed. Simply put, this is a war movie. Albus Dumbledore has been dead for a while now, Snape has seemingly joined the Death Eaters, and Voldemort, now aware of Harry, Ron, and Hermione's quest to get rid of his Horcruxes, plans to kill Potter and crush Hogwarts into dust. It's violent, dark, truly scary in parts, and seemingly hopeless in others. And yet, despite all the blood and rubble, it never loses touch with the simple message that made the franchise so magical in the first place, that with courage and the help of friends, good can always triumph over evil. Maybe that's not always true in the real world, but the Deathly Hallows Part 2 invites us to a place where even a small bit of hope makes loss and suffering worth enduring. Stop-motion animation films are hard enough to make that the market has never been saturated with them, and each installment still feels special. Wes Anderson and Tim Burton have given us a few great ones, and Coraline very nearly made this list. But according to the critics, the one to beat in the 21st century so far is 2016's Kubo and the Two Strings. It's the story of Kubo, an eye-patched kid on the hunt for his missing father, who fights the evil forces of the Moon King. If that all sounds rather straightforward and generic, it's anything but. There's music that makes origami come to life, animal charms that become magical talking monkeys, a beetle samurai, enchanted weapons in forbidden places, and towering monsters guarding them. In the end, we learn a powerful lesson about family, redemption, and how we're defined by our memories. It's a gorgeous feat of filmmaking that refuses to hold your hand or bore you with shallow cliches. And if you haven't seen it, you're in for a thrilling, emotional treat. Nobody in the history of film, other than perhaps Walt Disney, has done more to legitimize animation than legendary Studio Ghibli co-founder Hayao Miyazaki. The mere mention of his name draws nods of reverence from fans. There's a good reason for this too. His anime films, such as 1986's Castle in the Sky, 1988's My Neighbor Totoro, and 1997's Princess Mononoke, are consistently boundary-pushing, breathtaking, and all-around wonderful. But 2001's Spirited Away, about a young girl who encounters a world filled with bizarre spirits, has transcended even these achievements and is frequently referenced not only as one of the best animated features, but as one of the greatest films ever made. It's also one of the most successful animated movies, raking in $347 million on a $15 to $20 million budget and beating out Titanic to become the highest-grossing film ever released in Japan. It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 75th Oscars, and its influence hasn't diminished in the years since its release. In 2016, the BBC asked 177 film critics what the best movies of the 21st century have been, and Spirited Away beat out every animated feature to come in an impressive 4th place overall. The next year, the New York Times gave it a 2nd place finish over the same time period. Who said fantasy has to take itself seriously? Director Rob Reiner, known for 1989's When Harry Met Sally, 1992's A Few Good Men, and 1984's This Is Spinal Tap, adapted The Princess Bride in 1987. Based on William Goldman's 1973 novel of the same name, Bride is a laugh riot that both pokes fun at and celebrates fantasy tropes in equal measure. It's the story of a lowly farmhand, Wesley, who befriends a vengeful swordmaster and a giant. The band sets off to rescue Wesley's love, Princess Buttercup, from the evil Prince Humperdinck and his chief lieutenant, Count Rugen. Do we have to explain it? Come on, we know you've seen The Princess Bride. At the very least, you've undoubtedly heard enough quotes from it that you might as well have seen it. It's up there with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and Borat is one of the most quoted comedies of all time.
My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die!
If you were trying to determine the most influential film of all time, it'd be tough to beat The Wizard of Oz, The Ruby Red Slippers, There's No Place Like Home, The Cowardly Lion, Toto, and of course,
I'm melting! Melting!
Seriously, so many elements of this movie have become timeless staples of American pop culture that there's hardly another film that can compete. Yeah, it lost out to Gone with the Wind at the Academy Awards, but who needs an Oscar when you're the most viewed motion picture in history, as determined by the Library of Congress? The point is, The Wizard of Oz is kind of a big deal, and critical acclaim for the film, both at the time and in the years since, has been truly universal. We tell you to go see it, but if you haven't yet, you probably don't know what the internet is and will never come across this video. According to Rotten Tomatoes, 2010's How to Train Your Dragon is the most critically acclaimed animated fantasy film ever made. And why shouldn't it be? Its relatively recent vintage doesn't at all detract from its stunning visuals, the fantastic performances of the voice actors, John Powell's unforgettable musical score, or the entrancing story of a scrawny underdog kid trying to prove himself to his tough-as-nails Viking clan. all while befriending, healing, and training a dragon enemy. It's also a highly successful film, one that launched arguably the most beloved DreamWorks animated franchise other than Shrek. These days, it can seem like the mark of a successful movie is getting at least one sequel, and Dragons has two. 2014's How to Train Your Dragon 2 and 2019's How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. With Rotten Tomatoes scores of 92% and 91% respectively, both of these smashes only just missed making this list. We would have loved to have them, but the 2010 original flies highest of all. Mary Poppins joins fewer than 1,000 films with 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not even the most hard-to-please critic could snub this all-time Disney classic, perhaps because it's been a staple of virtually every Western childhood since its 1964 release. It's worth noting that of all the masterpieces Walt Disney released during his lifetime, Mary Poppins is the only one to have received a Best Picture nomination at the Academy Awards. Also worth noting, that was only one of 13 nominations it received that year. It won 5: Best Actress for Julie Andrews, Best Film Editing, Best Visual Effects, Best Original Musical Score, and Best Original Song for Chim Chim Cheree. The film's shortcomings aren't just few and far between, but are now considered strengths. Dick Van Dyke's atrocious Cockney accent, for example, is hilarious and endearing.
I know that show you wet anywhere. Mary Poppins!
On top of that, Mary Poppins' visual effects put the viewer in a visual time machine back to the golden era of film where you had to take what you had and make it work. The result is a Disney knockout. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.